Welcome back to the Better Men, Better Ball Player podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cobb. I want to thank you for joining us here on our 100th episode, this century mark episode, and a great guy to kick off our century episode, the 100th episode, which is really crazy to think about. 100 weeks been at it with the podcast, is head coach, legendary coach Chan Brown from Parkview High School in Georgia. It's his 19th year. Coach Brown has been there 19 years now, 18th year as a head coach. He's a 2018 Hall of Fame class of the Georgia Dugout Club. He's been the Georgia Dugout. In 2021, he was a Dugout Club Ethics Award winner. But in his tenure at Parkview, listen to this. In his tenure at Parkview, they won 3 national championships, 6 Georgia State championships, 12 regional championships during his time there. He's had 14 guys drafted in his time there. He's had over 200 players going to college as in his 19 years that he's been at Parkview. Incredible coach, incredible history, and like he mentions in the podcast, it's been an incredible tradition at Parkview. He's been only one of 2 coaches in Parkview's history. So incredible tradition there at Parkview. We touch base about that. We touch base about his developmental program, how he's getting guys from 8U, working his system, how he's educating them, educating their parents, getting people bought into the system, bought into his family atmosphere, and then getting into like his situation with the school and how he kind of runs his school with his baseball class and the things that they're doing each day throughout the year, along with the lessons that he's trying to teach his kids beyond the game. How he talks about don't get lost in the game, don't let the scoreboard run you. Such a valuable piece of advice he gives throughout the episode, and you can just tell throughout the episode he has such a bigger picture of this game. And he dives into a couple little things about his defensive series and how he's playing catch play, and what he's doing every day at practice. But at the same time, he's talking about how he several times talked about the person, the student, the teammate, and the player will take care of itself. Mentioned it a handful of times, so don't want to get into any more of that. Let's save that for him because he says it a lot better than what I do. But just got to give a shout out to our sponsors, our netting guys at Netting Pro. Will Miner, those guys at Netting Pros. Netting professionals are improving programs one facility at a time. Netting professionals specialize in design, fabrication, installation of custom netting for backstops, batting cages, dugouts, scoreboards, BP screens, and ball carts. They also design and install digital graphic wall padding, windscreen, turf protectors, dugout benches, dugout cubbies, and more. Netting professionals continue to provide quality products and services to many recreation, high school, and college fields, facilities, and stadiums throughout the country. Contact them today at 844-620-2707 or info@nettingpros.com. Visit them online at www.nettingpros.com or check out Netting Pros on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for other latest products and projects. So again, thanks to those guys. Thanks to Will Miner. Check those guys out, Netting Pros. Coach Chan Brown, 100th episode. Here he is, the century mark guy. Coach Chan Brown from Parkview High School.
We got some stuff from different guys that, it's kind of some of the same things that we do or whatever. It might just be a little different terminologies or, but, ABCA and all that. It's just kind of for us, obviously we use stuff and go in there and listen all day and try to tweak some things that we do to towards maybe something, something that somebody else is doing or something like that. But, right now we're in a phase that because of my travel program with Meridian that feeds into Parkview. So like this senior class has been with me 9 years, the junior class 8 years, sophomore class, 7 years, that type deal. Because of and having a son that's in the sophomore class that played up with the other crowd, all of them have been with me for so long that, I don't know, man, it's pretty repetition with us right now.
So you just kind of get the system early.
Yeah. So we start that travel program at age 8, and that goes to 14. I don't go above 14.
And you say they've been with you, so like during that travel program, that's where they get the first taste. So like, What does that involve with you? Does that involve you like taking teams in the summer, or does that just involve like you like?
So I've always helped both of my sons' teams. So right now I got one that's a sophomore with us, and then one that's 13. So he's on the 13U team. But I've always just stayed with those teams. But myself and Coach Klein and Coach McCoy, we do 12 weeks during the fall with every team, 8U through 14U, and we do 6 weeks of defense and 6 weeks of offense every fall. So it's training the coaches and the kids actually. So.
And you've been on that your whole tenure? Like when did you get to start that? So when your boys came through?
I started. I think this is year 12.
Wow, that's awesome.
So.
As you start in the fall, is it basically mirror what your
a lot of age appropriate?
Yeah, that's all development appropriate. Sure.
That deal, but so we'll have tryouts in August, and then once they start, we pretty much go August through July 1st each year. They get all of July off, and then revamp it.
Oh, that's nice, man. So you have a lot of community support that like basically community could like you said they're helping out, or is it some of your staff?
Our 8U, 9U, and 10U are dad coaches that were like the all-star coaches and stuff like that.
Sure.
But they have a paid assistant that goes to practice with them. And so that's like an actual paid travel coach that and then our 11U, the 14U have a paid head coach and a paid assistant.
Nice. Is it specifically with your guys that you're going to get, or is it open to
about 95%? About 95% is coming to Parkview, depending on the team. We try to play in the major level on every team, no matter if it's 8, to 14, and if we got to pick up some extra pitching or an extra catcher to make that team better, than and they might be a Brookwood kid, which is our rival. I mean, that's fine. We're just trying to get these kids where they're playing the best competition they possibly can on the way up, and which ultimately helps them and helps us at some shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah, what do you feel like as the doing it 12 out of your 19 years, and when you started, like, so now you're really seeing the fruits of it with 7 years in or 12 years in. Like, what do you feel like you're getting now that you weren't getting before?
I think the two biggest things we see is it helps train the parents a little bit from a standpoint of, all right, these guys, know what's going on. They're coaching our kids right. They're teaching them about life, that type deal. And then the next thing, I think, honestly, obviously them learning our terminologies and the system per se, but I think it has developed arm strength. I think we have that consistent 84 to 88 guy, 2 or 3 of those every year that we wouldn't have had on the mound. And you might not be developing that 93, 95 guy. That's just God-given talent. But I think overall we are consistently seeing better arm strength, not just from pitchers, but from a position player standpoint too. But a pitching standpoint, I think that we've noticed that we are a little bit more consistent on the mound with just that mid-80s velo type guy that can, in high school, that can get people out.
Is that typically just from the year-round care, just even the education of how you warm up, how you throw?
Yeah, just teaching them the process of early and taking care of the arm a little bit better. And honestly, man, we ask them to take the month of November and December off of throwing, and so trying to give them a little bit of a break, that type deal. I only let them play 3 Sunday onlys in the fall. I don't let them go full bore. I think Saturday is about family and football, and so they can play 3 Sunday only tournaments, and from there, we just kind of take it and run. And then during the spring, January through June, it's pretty full bore.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll be off in you go to springtime. So you go springtime. You go springtime with your younger boys, with your 8U to 12.
Say that again.
You go in the springtime. You guys play in the springtime, where it's the same time that you're playing too.
Yeah, we play January through June. So
they're not.
Obviously, I'm not there all the time.
Sure.
But I still run the baseball side of it, and I have a business partner that runs the numbers and the money side of it and all that type of deal. So,
Yeah, that's why I was just wondering, like, how much with you, being as involved with the varsity team as much, with them going at the same time, or if you'd want them more during the summer.
We the pretty ritual, the 11U and the 12U team use the softball team, which is the softball field right below us, and they practice every Tuesday, Thursday. So I can get done with practice or walk down, I can watch them practice, or obviously I'll go to my son's practices. So, I'm usually can see 11, 12, 13, 14U practice pretty much once a week at least.
That's true. Nice. That works nice being able to use that softball field for sure.
Oh yeah. So
that's a nice.
Our cages, the way we're set up as a baseball field, and then the cages, and then the softball field. So we just makes it pretty convenient for everybody.
I know that's one thing. Like I was talking to Wes Brooks about, and they're back because he does a good. He has the same kind of system, and like what do you? Is it as detailed? Like trying to get each level, like you said, developmentally at each level, what it's supposed to be. Have you broke it down to where, hey, we want the 10U's to be able to do this before they get done, to like, hey, by 12U, you're going to go into high school. We want you to have this done. There's certain standards.
Yeah, like I said, I think everything's age appropriate. And so the way we handle it is so when a coach starts with a group at 11U, he's going to ride them through the 14U.
Okay.
So it's the same head coach, same paid assistant. So it's one consistent voice also, which helps, I think, where they're not hearing a different philosophy each spring, each fall, whatever you want to call it. And so that, I think that the consistency part of that helps the development part of it also.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just didn't think what kind of things do you expect from the 9U team compared to
like I said, we do some age appropriate things, but we start working tandems and relays with 8U. Obviously, nice. 8U, we don't have quite the expectation that we do 11U or 12U, and definitely not 14U. So we kind of hit on everything that you're going to see at a high school practice. But like I said, it's just might be obviously different parameters from a standpoint of a tandem, how far they go out, or we might say the shortstop always needs to be the relay guy, at an earlier age is where that might change once we get to 12U, that type of deal. And then we have a blue and a white and an orange and a black series. It's all our defensive stuff. And so we teach all of that to each group. And so honestly, by age 12, we ask age 12, 13, and 14 to practice together once a week during the fall to try to put pressure on the 12U and to try to get some leadership out of the 14U. And so by the time you're turning 12, you're expected to be able to run what we're running, to be honest with you.
Nice. Nice, man. That's a great system, man. I love the camaraderie of it. Like you said, practicing at least one time together, being able to run those defensive series. That's cool. Yeah. Because even a sense of, I'm sure that younger level, even where the pitcher backs up.
Yeah.
Where there are times there's not even enough space for them to back up.
And it's a thing that we're big about talking to the families. Also, hey, when your 14-year-old's a senior, that 12-year-old's a sophomore. He's going to be helping your son try to win a state championship. And so they got to start some of the selfishness and some of the whatever you want lack of team chemistry or whatever. We try to really blend a family atmosphere per se through the whole travel program part of it that really tries to hit, once the high school part of it, because, eventually you're going to have a sophomore that's going to beat out a senior and all the above. So just trying to teach, like I said, training mom and dad, and hey, this kid's, pushing your son for a starting position already. So, your son better wake up and smell the coffee per se.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great, man. What a great system. All part of it, it's all part of being able to. Did you happen to what was the whole process of was it hard to get it off the ground? Was it something that was already kind of established?
No, it wasn't established. I had a couple of dads come to me and was like, "Hey, would you start working with our teams?" And I was like, "Yeah, this, that, whatever." And then I just kind of started thinking about it. And I'm like, why not try to do this at each level and try to keep the consistent part of it, and them wearing the same colors we're wearing. All of them have all the orange hats, no matter if it's Parkview or Meridian, look the exact same. So when they wear them to the park, having a sense of pride in that. And, it's just more of a program type deal instead of individuality travel ball.
Mm-hmm.
So it's worked well. I mean, it's been a good situation for us.
For sure. And so you feel and you guys seem to be big enough to be able to, draw enough of that talent, especially to play. Like you said, you're playing at the big events.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing where like my junior and sophomore class right now, they won the USA 14U event. They won several PG events, over teams, and a lot of teams get kind of upset because they got people from all over the nation playing for one team, and we're all, a group basically going to the same high school. So it doesn't always make people very happy about losing to us.
I'm sure it doesn't, but that just goes by saying, you got a system, they're playing good baseball, and also they're probably playing for each other more than what the other teams are.
Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to teach fundamentals of the game of baseball, and honestly, man, just trying to teach a little bit of fundamental of life. And so that seems, it goes a long way with especially the parents and the kids once they buy into it.
Absolutely. How do you do that? How do you especially bring it into the travel program? I think we could talk about the high school, but within your travel program and doing it from the 8 to 12, how are you incorporating those slices of life?
I do a big parent meeting, the whole travel thing, and I run the parent meeting just like I would the high school parent meeting, and I talk to them about the tradition of what they're getting into and the expectation, and we talk about the ladder system, what we call the ladder system of in high school. That ninth grader is just trying to beat out the sophomore, that he's really doesn't have that high expectation. We're trying to get ninth graders to beat out seniors, and just trying to push each other to get better every single day, and learning how to compete from a daily grind every single day, no matter how hard or how easy it might be that day. So from that standpoint, I think it's, like I said, we're trying to preach the game of life, not just the game of baseball. So from that sound thing, and we're a big community, but we're a small community too. So people still have that core value and core. They want their kids to be taught work ethic and all the above. So that part of it has obviously done very good.
Mm-hmm. So beyond the parent meeting, are there any expectations that you set for the coaching staff, for the coaches that say, hey, you're going to bring in maybe this to teach that, like you said, slice of life?
Yeah, I have a head coaches only meeting with them. There's some groundwork set there, and then I have a head coach / assistant coach meeting, and I very much talk to them about daddy ball, and your kid's not going to call you dad on the field, it's coach, and all those little principles that seem to sometimes get in the way of a travel system, especially with dad's coaching sometimes, or dad being a business manager for a team, and just getting to the point where trying to run it very professionally on a day in and day out situation.
Nice. So having those expectations are fantastic. That's awesome. Awesome. So speaking of, so like thinking of just putting on your other hat of the high school stuff, you know, the slice of life, bringing in those lessons or teaching. How do you incorporate that into, like, how does that end up bowling over into your high school program?
Well, it's funny because I think moving from the 14U group up to the incoming ninth grade summer, honestly, sometimes it feels like they lose a brain cell and they're like, they forget what it's all about because they're entering high school sometimes.
Yeah.
But, honestly, it takes them a second because the bigger picture gets thrown at them real quickly when that senior is leading them. And all of a sudden they're, little fish in big pond again. And so through that travel program, going through 8U and 9U and 10U practicing together, or 10U and 11U, and then 12U, 13 and 14, all of a sudden you're a big fish, and then getting put back in that, the big pond, being a little fish. I think just a process of life, the whole product of that. And, I think it has to bring them back to their core values that made them the player that they are, from that standpoint. And so that core value has to get back to saying, oh, I got to get back to work. I don't want to just be on the ninth grade team. I want to make the JV team. And then through the course of that is we ask all our incoming ninth graders to take summer PE 101 in health. And that's the mandated health and PE class they have to take as a high schooler in the state of Georgia. So we asked them to take that in summer school and going into their ninth grade years. So that allows them to be what's considered in my 7th period baseball class. So every day in high school, I get every baseball player, no matter, even if they play football, I get every baseball player at 115. And we are in the weight room. We're doing speed and agility. We do a leadership class. We do all kind of stuff during the fall, but we go from 1:30 to 3:30 every single day. And so it's a pretty intense little deal, especially the weight room. And so, the pecking order starts a little bit there, and you kind of find out out of each class, because they're working together every single day, who are the grinders and who are the guys that are kind of hiding in the corners and things like that. So the pecking order per se starts and like this year's freshman class, we have 17 freshmen. By the time they're junior, we're looking for 5. And so, it's a process now. Look, our last couple of state championship teams, last year we had 13 seniors. There were 13 that made it through. 13 brought value to our program, some shape, form, or fashion. That might not mean they were the best baseball player, but our biggest motto is about being a great person, a great student, a great teammate, and then being the player. And so, as long as they do those core values for us, that start really with Meridian, because we talked to them about it all the way through their senior year. And if you can bring value and you're gonna do what you're supposed to on and off the field, then we're gonna keep you around.
And they get that each day, man. I'm sure it's a big shell shock too. Especially, like you said, you see him every day, and then you'll go to practice, correct? Like, yeah, especially let's say if you don't play football, but then you're going to go to practice after school too.
Yeah. So like our football kids, they're with me during the fall. They go from 1:30 until 2:40, and then they go to football. But the rest of them stay with me. Now, like today, we went to the weight room from 1:30 till 2:15, and then they get dressed from 2:15 to 2:45, and then we're starting pre-practice and practice during the spring. On game days during the spring, our 7th period turns into a study hall before the games, and then a BP type session, before games. And so, it's been a model. I went to the administration, I guess this is year 14, and said I'd like this to happen. And they told me I had to come up with a curriculum. So it's called Advanced Fitness. And like I said, we do, when we start school in August, we lift 5 days a week, August through mid-September. Mid-September, we go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, heavy core lifts, Tuesday, Thursday for 30-minute circuit. And then everybody drives to our local pool, which is about 10 minutes away. And we do swimming, plyometrics, and bounding and stuff in the pool. Nice. for 5 weeks. And then after those 5 weeks, we lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then we hired a company called Hammersmith Sports, and they've done our speed and agility for the last 12 years. And so they actually come in and do a speed and agility with all our kids from 1:30 to 3 every Tuesday, Thursday. So it's another voice too. And they work really, really well with our kids, but they work really, really well with our expectation of our program. So it's like having another couple of coaches on staff, and, that's their sessions with those guys. And so, they're not getting after it that day. Then those coaches, kind of lay into them and put it on the line to them like, hey, let's go, So that, that system has worked really, really well. And then, like I said, we do a leadership class, which Dustin Klein and Mike Cooper, I went to them. This senior class is the first senior class that's been through all 4 years. But every Wednesday for 12 weeks after we lift, when we get done, we go into our football field house, what's called the pro room. It's like their meeting room. And we do an hour to hour and 15-minute leadership class. It's like I said, this senior group is the first group that's done it all 4 years. So from here on out, each group will have done it for 4 years. And I think that's helped our program because, our society is kind of soft these days. And the leadership factor of trying just to lead your peers is very, very hard for some of these kids because of the cell phone and the computers and whatever, just the whole communication route of them trying to sit there and talk with their peers about their expectation of them. And so we try to help that along. And like I said, my 2 guys that have done it, they based it off different books each year. And we've done the Pat Summit, 8 Principles of Leadership. Last year was a Navy SEALs book. And so we're trying to bring every aspect we can to the program, not just baseball.
Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, just with the class itself, is it strictly is it really surrounded by a book as that really comes down to it? Or will you bring in certain baseball talk within how you handle adversity during the game?
A little bit of everything's mentioned. We've the last 2 years, Coach Klein and Coach Cooper have really, really put in a discussion piece for the last 15 minutes, and they're divided up. Each group has at least senior, junior, sophomore, freshman, and then they normally have 3 of each. They're divided into different parts of the building, and they're given a topic that they have to bring back. And one person from each class has to discuss that topic, and senior, junior, sophomore, freshman. And so you get a lot of different perspective from that. And, and then like this year, even though we won a state championship last year, we were 30-10. At one point, we were 11-10, and then we rolled off 19 in a row. And we only really rolled off 19 in a row because our senior class finally grew up, and they weren't very good leaders. And so this senior group right now saw some of that happen last year, and so they did a lot of talking about what they wanted out of this year. They didn't want to go through all that again and things like that. So I think they're living and learning through experiences and trying to bring that to the table, but it's still getting that across to your peers has been very, very tough. And I think we're trying to teach that system to them that you can't be scared to talk to that guy. You can't be scared to call him out and say, hey, I get it done today. We need more. And so we're trying to get that part out of them where it's not just the coaches doing that.
Every Wednesday. So does that look like, and that's during the season too as well, every Wednesday?
No, we actually during the season that goes into what's called NG3. It's a mentor, Matt Sinscombe, that played at University of Georgia for the Saints. He started a thing called NG3. It's a mentor program, and it's they have somebody assigned to Parkview. And so that kind of takes over during the spring once our season starts. And they do an hour of, some of it's biblical, some of it's mentorship, some of it's just life skills. And a lot of that's done without myself or any coach with it. It's just him and them. And so they can discuss problems going amongst the team, amongst each other, things like that. And so it's a good little deal for the kids, I think, to be able to help each other through some hard times.
Absolutely. That's a whole nother level when I'm sure when you take the coaching staff away and it's somebody else and they're just be able to talk that kind of candidly, you know?
Yeah. And so, you know, and the two guys, actually, one of them that's assigned to us actually played for me, and he was a catcher.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm pretty tough on catchers because obviously we expect a lot of them, no matter if it's your level or my level or whatever. And so he can really relate to them sometimes about the pressures of our program, to be honest with you, man. I mean, I don't want it to sound cocky or come off the wrong way, but I'm the second head coach ever at Parkview High School in 48 years. And I was an assistant under the last guy. And, so the expectation and the morals and the values and everything have stayed the same for almost 48 years. And the pressures of, having 9 state championships and the expectations of winning it every year and things like that, there's always hidden pressures on these kids that sometimes as coaches, maybe you forget. And so I think it's a good thing for these kids to be able to relate to somebody that's been there too. And which is a cool thing. Like right now I have 3 guys on staff that played for me. And
yeah, super cool.
And so that helps these kids too, because they've been there and done that too.
Yeah. But have the kids mentioned anything like the differences between like during the season when they have the coaching staff's not there and when the coaching staff is there? I think it's really unique.
I'll poke my head into a spring one every now and then.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, y'all got anything for me? What, is there anything we need to discuss and that type of deal? And so, and the other thing that we've done with that too is we will try to meet every 2 weeks as a class. And so myself and another assistant coach will meet with the seniors. 2 or 3 coaches will meet with the juniors, 2 or 3 with sophomores, 2 or 3 with the freshmen. And we all split up in the different areas of the field and just say, hey, what's going on? You got anything personal going on with you? As a class, are we getting along? Or is there's some, things going on within the class that we need to know about? And so we try to just stay to the point where the whole relationship thing and staying intact with what's going on with these kids and, things like that, just the pressures and the peer pressures and all the above, and just trying to stay on top of that.
Man, it's incredible, Coach. Is it like you said, 2 and 40? Is this something that you took from the kid coach? Something you just started? Like you've always done this? Like that's incredible.
Done the group thing, or
like you just took guys out in the like every 2 weeks. You're just touching base. Hey, man.
We started about 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Was there something that to hit you over the head and say, hey, man, we got to touch base with these guys?
I think as a whole, society is just getting so tough on kids, and there's so much more distractions than what you and I probably ever had, especially me, being a little older. And I didn't have to worry about a cell phone. I didn't have to worry about things like that. And so I think the dynamics of their life is so much different than what we have had growing up, and things like that. So I just think that and like I said, the pressures of winning, there's a hidden pressure, I think, and I think being able to talk about it here and there helps them.
No, no, sure. No, absolutely.
So, I think the other thing we started 3 years ago was we do player of the day, and trying to get these kids to be able to talk in front of people. And so each kid, no matter, some days it's one kid, some days it's two, it just depends on the schedule. But if you're a player of the day, then you have to stand up and talk about something that's impacted you or someone that's impacted you, and what they did, how it came about, and then we ask them to either do a Bible verse or a quote. And so it takes 4 minutes, 5 minutes every day before practice, but it's making those kids stand up in front of their peers and communicate without a phone. And that we're trying to help with that leadership piece of being able to talk to each other on the field, in the dugout, that type of deal.
You said you want them to speak about a person who has made an impact on them, or just
It could be their dad, it could be their grandfather, it could be, we've had someone talk about their grandfather died, and that was an impactful thing for them. We talked, about moms, dads. It could be one of their youth coaches. Everybody's different, and now, like I said, this is 3 years. 3 years in the makings, 4 years in the makings, whatever it is. So, like I said, this junior and senior class they're having to stand up 3 and 4 different times over the course of their tenure here, and so they can't just use the same person. There's got to be something different, and so they got to think about it, and we ask them to write it down. We don't or type it out on their phone, and that type deal. So I think like I said, man, for me, we're big on communication. We want the kids to communicate with us if they're going to miss practice because they're sick. We don't want the mom and dad to do it. We're just trying to teach as much life skill along with baseball as we can.
Absolutely. To get the player of the day, what is it? Just subjectiveness or coach, or is there certain things that it just?
No, it's just straight. Everybody on the program off right now between 3 teams. Varsity, JV, and ninth grade, we got 53 players. So all 53 of them will do player of the day at least once this year.
So you will keep track of it, so you know who has got it, who hasn't.
So it's on. I've already, preseason I went through and put on the dates by our practice schedule and our game schedule. We try to stay away from game days, and so right now, since we're full practice, there's 1 or 2 player of the day every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then they come in so it got, I guess, kind of like that's kind of your mental at the beginning of practice. They got to do player of the day, and you hear what they have to say. Cool, really cool. Is it something where I'm just thinking about again the coach in me thinking about how am I going to give those out? Is it something where hey man, I want to see this guy be the player of the day? You're looking for that, or are you trying, or is it mostly just trying to be, hey, if the guy's the player of the day, is the player of the day? Or are you trying to really think hey, I got to?
It's basically when I put the list together, I do a senior, then a junior, then a sophomore, then a freshman, senior, junior. And so it's not just a senior at the front and then it turns into the juniors. And so we're trying to split them up where, each class has a representative each week, that type deal. So
cool. I love that. I love you. You're really trying that within the whole program. Even from every 2 weeks, you meet with all the different classes. And then with the player of the day, you want all the classes to be there.
Yeah, and we do that. And so
right.
The first hour of practice pretty much every day for us, hour to hour and 15, maybe hour and a half. All 3 teams are always together. So we do our pre-practice bunting and all our pitch mechanic stuff together. We're going to do all our stretching and throwing together, and then we do all our mass fungo, all our defensive drill, what we call D drills, And then we normally do one of our series, our white, blue, black, orange, something like that. We try to do that every day for all 3 teams. So that way the freshman kid is getting coached by the varsity coach, and he's being next to a senior that's teaching them the speed of the practice that we're looking for and things like that. So we're trying to create that chemistry that, like I said, we do with the travel program at 12, 13, 14. We're trying to revamp that just as much in the high school setting too, because, eventually they're all going to play together anyway. And so just trying to make sure that the chemistry part is there and the leadership part is there, and honestly just getting after it every day together.
That's even the question I thought about. It's like when they do the player day speeches, is the freshman hearing what the senior says and the senior hears what the freshman says?
Right. I mean, we're all together in the dugout, every coach, everybody. So
nice. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. That would be, it makes sense because that would be really impactful. And I think it's only going to elevate even with the freshmen. Those guys are uncomfortable, not going to be able to probably speak as well. And you're trying to push them along.
I mean, it's and everybody learns something about each other, man. Honestly, I mean, you get to hear something that, I mean, there's been times that I'm like, wow, I had no idea. I mean, you might hear of somebody that, I don't know, they might have been, let's say, a grandfather, but I mean, there's enough. I hate to put it this way, but there's enough divorce issues and stuff like that out there that sometimes you hear things during the player of the day that you're like, oh, wow, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so it helps you learn some kids too.
Yeah, I always like sometimes the stories when you're going to hear and things like that when the guys talk about, we done hero highlight hardship, and you hear like, my dad's my hero, right? And this is the guy that just like cussed you at the game and you got no trespassing before it gets them, and he's had big issues about this and that. And I'm like, and that's what it helps us as coach to be like, look, this is this guy's hero, and we have to kind of like be able to leave. And that's hard for, as a coach, because we're all human, but like we can't hold this really against this kid because it's his hero. I mean, so it's really tough. And like even things like that, it really hit me between the eyes. Be like, this is this guy's hero, and even though he's giving us a hard time, this and that, it's hard.
Well, and I mean, and sometimes you even feel, I mean, you hear some things that the kid might say about his dad or something like that being too hard on him, and it puts too much pressure on him. And I mean, it's like this week, or excuse me, last Friday, my son Cade, it was his player of the day, and his person was his mom. As last year it was his grandfather, but this year was his mom, and he talked about how much he was the rock of our family, and with dad being gone so much and things like that. And then even went into the details of she tries to keep a good balance between me and him with the baseball side of it, because we fight like cats and dogs sometimes about what I'm seeing with his swing or what he's seeing, or this and that, and which I'm not always excited that relationships like that. And then other days, it's the best thing since sliced bread. And it's so I mean, it puts things in perspective too, man, when you hear it from different people, and I think it helps the kids put things in perspective.
No, for sure. Even to help a kid, even them building their different perspective on a kid and what they might be dealing with. We tell kids all the time, know what the battles people are going through, and then they hear something like that. But another thing I love about the player of the day is like what you're trying to do, and it's kind of like Adam Williams, like he gives a shirt out like player of the day, and they basically give the shirt to someone else who helped them become the player of the day, which kind of like what you're doing is like, here's player of the day, but I want you to recognize somebody else because you were player of the day.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's a cool idea right there for sure.
Yeah, it's cool. But if it's like I said, it's very similar to yours, where you're making them still recognize somebody else on their day. Hey, the only reason I'm up here I'm not talking about me and myself. I'm talking about this other person's kind of made me who I am because this made an impact on me. Like you're creating that in yourself.
No, I'm with you. And I think that's I think that's something that we try to sell a lot is to A, trust the process, B, look at the bigger picture, that it's not just about you. And for our program, we're very, very fortunate. I mean, we got 9 seniors and 7 of them are committed or / signed for college right now. We have out of the junior class, we have 14 kids, and there's 3 D1s already, and there's a potential of having 6 D1s in that class. The sophomore class already has a Georgia and a Georgia Tech committing pitchers, and there's probably three other kids that are legit D1 players in that sophomore class. So, and they all play upper level travel ball. And that upper level travel ball, as you know, just as well as I do, can be very, very selfish, very, very,
Very.
whatever, not team oriented or whatever. So we're just trying to keep them grounded per se, and just trying to keep that inner drive of being the best you can be, no matter if it's, like I said, being a person, a student, or a teammate. And let the player should take care of itself if you're talented enough anyway.
Bingo. I love that you said that in the person, student, and being a good teammate, and the player's going to take care of itself. Absolutely. They wouldn't be at your level if they weren't a good player in the first place.
Right. I hear you. And I mean, like I said, and I mean, you asked earlier what some of the things from Meridian. I do think we see more of a sound fundamentally player because of going through the same fundamentals for 5, 6, 7 straight years, and the drill process that we do. So I do think by the end of it is teaching a more knowledgeable baseball player, but a more fundamentally sound baseball player.
Is it the fundamentals when you're talking about that? I guess it's just like with that structure that you have in the defensive series, your fungo series and things like that. Are you having the same kind of thing offensively too, like within the same kind of structure?
Yeah, we do a lot. I mean, our biggest thing, like from a hitting standpoint, we talk about the big saying is rhythm, stance, load, swing, and trying to keep them in sequence and a rhythm of doing that and staying back on the backside and get through, hitting through the baseball, hitting behind the baseball, using gap to gap type deals. So, they're going to hear the same message from the 8U all the way to 18. And so the consistency of the message is there between all the coaches, no matter it's travel or high school.
Huge. Absolutely huge.
And I from a hitting standpoint, I don't think we're a program that clones people. I think we try to take what's there and works with it, and I mean, everybody's hand placements might be different. Every stance might look different, this, that, whatever. But we're, when you get to that point of contact and trying to drive the ball through the gaps and things like that, I think, the consistent message is there in their mindset.
Mm-hmm. Working through the baseball, going gap to gap, being able to hit the ball sides. For sure. Man, that's great. Love it. So you go to ABCA, because I'm just thinking about this now, because you talk about the consistency of it. So like go to ABCA, or like there are certain things that you want to implement. How long does that take you with trying to get it consistent from 8U up?
I think some of the things that we pick up from ABCA probably is more used from 12U up.
Okay.
13U up, something like that. Obviously, I think some of the structure or discipline or just the part that's being taught might be a little above the 8, 9, and 10, 11U that you're getting from ABCA. And so, from that standpoint, and the ABCA is awesome, man. What a cool event. I mean, I've been going for a long, long time, and just the camaraderie and the networking and all the above. And, and I think I've been highly fortunate to be a part of USA Baseball and learning, being around so many unbelievable coaches But I think the cool thing about that is like at this last ABCA, you know, being able, you're going to talk to Butch from Tennessee, you're going to talk to David Webb from Arizona, you know, you talk to Sherman from Texas, you got, you know, Adam from Hoover, this, that, whatever, and all of us bounce ideas that we hear from the ABCA off of what they might be doing and then what we're doing. And then you try to come up with the best solution to be able to teach that kid that's a teachable moment. And I think sometimes, like, you might hear something from a pro guy that might be a little bit more pro style, that you got to take a little tidbit to be able to teach it to a high school kid. And so, you know, I think it's all about the style that you're trying to teach too. And, you know, some things you might think is the coolest idea in America, but you gotta tweak it to make it work for your system.
That's great. I think that is a pure, great coach saying there. You might think it's the best coaching advice in the world, but you have to tweak it to make it part of your system.
Well, you know, and I mean, I've seen too many people just try to take ideas that they hear from other people and try to implement it, but they really don't understand it. You know, you got to understand what you're teaching before you can really teach the kid to grasp the whole idea about
it. Well, that's why I'm just thinking of, you know, just as big as your system as you're in, but yeah, just how much communication you'd have to have with all those things. Just, you know, from when you started maybe incorporating base running more into your practices, or when you started to incorporate, like you said, more of like the backside, you know, like this different way the hitting changes, the way that, you know, different things, the rhythm of things started changing. I think we're starting to see more athleticism in like throwing routines and catch plays and different stuff, because that's kind of how where you just kind of see things going right now. So I'm just thinking of, you know, when those kind of things change for you, because I know you're always learning and you're trying to see how you can say things, you know, and what the process is like for you to say, okay, if I think this is important, then we got to start doing it like real young. So
it. Yeah, you know, I would say like, so Dustin Klein, which is a very good up and coming young coach on our staff, and he does our base running and bunting. And so like 2 years ago, we were in Hoover, Alabama with a bunch of USA guys, and David Webb told him something about a finger being behind the barrel about bunting, and he'd never used that, and he came back to implement that because he understood automatically that finger behind the barrel, after him trying it, was a directional piece that he had been missing by not teaching that. And so like that, we started at 8. You know,
yeah, there you go.
The base running part, I think we probably try to implement that stuff, even though they're not stealing, but just leads and, you know, primaries and secondaries. And, you know, just how many people out there honestly aren't teaching the right primary and secondary leads just in general. You know, so I think those implementations are, you know, the whole, like you said, catch play type deal. And, you know, for us, I think the more throwing patterns that we have learned through the ABCA or different clinics we've been through, we try to implement those more than anything, because of just, you got to throw and catch to be able to win. And, you know, and it's a lost art in itself. Like during the fall, a lot, we will go to a lot of Division I schools and hang out with them for a couple of days. So Clemson, Bradley, of course, showed us a thing that they do they allow their infielders to warm up for 3 minutes, and then it goes into what's they're called their infield throw around. And so it's charted up. So each position has a chart that we got from Bradley, and Coach Klein and David Reynolds, our infield guys, uses it. And so each position has a bucket, and for the next 12 minutes, they're rotating through every throw that they would make during a game. And so, you know, that's a throwing pattern for us and I think we look for throwing patterns to spice it up per se each year. That's going to be a little different, and just to make the kids, you know, have the right footwork or the right arm angle or the right arm slot, however you want to call it. And just being able to move around and be athletic and throw the ball on the run. and catch on the run and be athletic enough with their eyes, hands, and their feet that we can make plays when needed. And so I think over the last probably 4 or 5 years, that's one thing we've implemented more than anything is just different throwing patterns or throwing ideas that we've seen from different folks. And when we do that, we normally do start that at 8.
Nice. I love it isn't that charted. You don't hear that much of that catch play being charted. That's awesome. That's really nice. Yeah, it's sort of. It is, and especially with catch play, it is such a valuable time that and there are opportunities for sure.
And like I said, I think every program is different, and I'm very fortunate to, like I said, be able to hang out with a lot of good coaches when we go to ABCA and talk baseball and all the above. But I don't know that the emphasis is put on catching and throwing enough, and as a whole through the baseball society enough, special travel ball, and because you just show up and play. And I think the fundamental part of that is it's got to get better just overall. Just playing simple, warming up, and having a little bit more focus, having a little bit more intent to it, and just being better at it. To be honest with you,
having a purpose. Like you said, how about you just go the purpose of like trying to make every throw that you're gonna make in a game, like you just said. Like just try to make a couple throws for me. Like most guys are only throwing from one arm slot, and you're an infielder. I don't think so.
And so like our white series incorporates pitchers, infielders, and catchers, and it's every throw that you do is a in-game throw, but that's run off a clock, like a stopwatch, and so they're trying to be in the 40, 41, 42 range, 42 seconds range every time, then that means that's a good session of white, and if you get in the 45 range, then that means somehow, shape, form, fashion, somebody's footwork weren't good. It was a bad throw, might have been a bad hop, this, that, whatever, but and just trying to put more pressure on them in every aspect of the game, not just throwing and catching, but everything we do, we try to make our practices so fast that the game's a little bit slower, to be honest with you.
Would you say like with all your defensive series, like you talk about the clock, is there any other ways you try to make them fast? You just do runners? Will you just do runners where you compete against each other? What are some interesting ways you're doing that?
Like today we did I don't know, we call it get out of the box or keep the runner off second from a defensive standpoint. But we just have an infielder at each bag when they're not playing. So the kids are hitting off a tee, and it's teaching the kid that's hitting to get out of the box and try to get a double out of a normal single. But the outfitter's job is to stop that runner, make the runner stop at first by the ball stopping him being at second, that type deal. So I think everything we do, we're trying to compete on a level that's in game situation.
Mm-hmm. Like it. Yeah, because I just like Sherm called it the zoo in the jungle. I think there's so much of the zoo that goes on. I feel in baseball. It's just because it's a harder game to play. It's slower. So I think in practice we are trying to make things fast and keep it up. So we do a lot of zoo type stuff. But it's just part of it. You got to put them in there. You got to try to compete.
Yeah, and for us, we do 21 outs every day. We're going to play the crap out of some 21 outs as coach pitch 21 outs, but we're going to put a lot of pressure on people during that. And then for us, so after Saturday, let me see, that'll be 8, 9. So after Saturday, that'll be our 11th inter squad. From a high school standpoint, a lot of people don't play that many inter squads before the season starts. But after this coming Saturday, going into next Friday, our opener, that'll be our 11th inter squad, and that's obviously helping our pitchers get on their pitch count, their inning count, and all the above. But obviously playing the game and competing against each other and having that orange and white thing for us, making the teams compete, And then we do that for about 6, and then we actually started going starters versus role players, and all of a sudden let that role player team start getting a little bit closer, even beating the starters team there for a while. All of a sudden competition really, really begins. And so, just from an everyday standpoint, just putting them in such a game-like situation and making them compete under pressure, under time, under pure pressure per se, all the above. I think the more you do that, the better off you're going to
be. Absolutely. Oh yeah. Well, Coach, I mean, we're sitting here over an hour already. So, it's crazy. We've gone through. I mean, geez, we've done a lot from your travel program, which I didn't know we'd even get into, which was really cool. Is there anything that maybe we might haven't touched that you might want to get into? Any kind of advice, anything that we might have not touched base that you'd like to talk about?
I think the biggest thing is, head coaching points of let your guys coach. I'm not a dictator by any means. We go over and we have a lot of coaches meetings going into the season and set your parameters, set your expectations. But you hired assistant coaches to coach, let them coach. I think that's important for everybody out there. And there's a lot of young, really good baseball minds. Let them be that guy. I'm very, very fortunate to have a lot of good assistants underneath me, and a lot of them are going to be good head coaches one day. And and then the other thing is, you're going to have some good practices and some bad practices. Learn from the bad ones. What did we do bad there? How did the coaches have a role in that? Don't be so prideful that you can't learn from things. And and more than anything, it's just work ethic, man. With our society the way it is, I think the more we can teach these kids to do the right thing on and off the field. And like I said, our big motto is, we want them to represent their last name and Parkview baseball program the right way all the time. And then the other thing is be a great student. Be a great person, a great student, a great teammate, and then the player. And the player part for us, we try to preach as much as possible. That should be easy because of the way we practice, the way we make them lift, the way they work, and obviously having talented kids help that process. But I think the biggest three, man, is don't get lost in this game. Don't let the scoreboard run you. And I think as a young coach, I did let the scoreboard run me sometimes, and to the point where I don't know that I taught the game of life enough to some of the teams that came through here. And I want to look back and kick myself in the butt for that.
Coach Chan Brown, just giving us some great information. Really appreciate him. Appreciate you, Coach, and appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. Getting to talk this time. It's a real pleasure getting to get to know Coach. We talked about learning those things in Alabama. So I got a chance to meet him and understand he was there, and got to know who he was, and then just being able to spend some time with him at the ABCA, which is so great about our game. Like you mentioned about the ABCA and just the camaraderie and what you're able to do during the ABCA, just this sheer networking and being able to do that. I think you can have an extra 2 days the ABCA just to have a social convention, just to have a catch up. Especially this year. This year, my goodness, I feel like you haven't seen anybody in years, which we really haven't. It was really just great to catch up, and like Coach Brown was saying, it was just this one great thing about our game. And it's a couple of really great things. Just want to reiterate about what I loved about his talks is how the player's the easy part. It's the person, it's the student, it's the teammate, and the player will take care of itself. The player's the easy part. And he hashes that out, and really taking it to his leadership classes that he's doing now. I've been running that for 4 years. This senior class gets it for the first 4 years, which I'm sure this made a big difference in their program. And hear that the seniors were taking some more leadership of it and what they wanted to do with that class. And loving the whole being able to bring another guy in there without the coach's presence, where I think there's a really big impact that could be made on the team without the coach is present there and Phil, and they have to say certain things because the coach is there. I think it allows for some really great conversations then it come out of just the sheer baseball talk of it, like just how he's doing those every days and just how the structure of his program every day. I think, that all plays into have a great, like what I hear about that is that's a great situation. The administration allows you to have the end of the day period to be able to do those things. He's got a great structure in place for his guys to be successful, to continue to go out there to say stretch routine, get your warm-ups in, getting your defensive skills in, all those things ready. And they're all doing those things together from freshmen to seniors before they're able to then break off into their own teams, doing that every day. Such a great situation to be in, and we can see why year in and year out they're so competitive, and they can be competitive at the highest level when they're travel ball. And he talked about with his developmental system, but all what I felt like for those guys who have good situations or wanting to have good programs, that developmental system is there in some capacity. And you hear Coach Brown, I've talked to Coach Brooks about it, Wes Brooks. There's guys all over who are having some type of developmental system, building that feeder system into the program. And Coach Jan, really set a nice table for that, really to show the how great it could be, how well it could be ran, and the benefits of it. His record, their success, it speaks for itself. Year in and year out, he's competing for a state championship in Georgia. So, Coach Brown, again, can't thank you enough. Thank those guys at Netting Pros enough for our sponsorship, and most importantly, it's about you guys. It's about the game. It's about us. It's about trying to get better. And as Coach Brown continues to do it year in and year out, and I appreciate him giving some information on helping us get better today. So, continue to reach out, follow us, and until next week, keep getting better.